I'll just upload 2 videos. Okay, sorry about that interruption for the announcement. We'll just upload 2 videos today. So yeah, Obama spent billions of dollars to improve our nation's infrastructure. So it was like roads and bridges, and you probably saw some signs. I can't remember what it was called. Rebuilding something America. It was that he passed, a law that he passed, and you saw these signs. This road is being fixed because of the, I can't remember what it was called, but his program, which was spending money on infrastructure. And he said it would start the economy because people would start spending money again. People argue if it was a good idea or a bad idea. But infrastructure, yeah, things like roads and bridges. Another example from history, in the U.S. Civil War, the North won the Civil War because they had partly because they had better infrastructure, especially railroads. So the North, in the Civil War, they were more industrial, and they had factories. That's another thing, but that's part of it. But so they built railroads so they could move their soldiers very fast. They could get lots of soldiers and put them on trains and move them all across the country. In the South, they're like walking and going on horses. They couldn't catch up. So that made the North faster. And so that's one reason why they won. Also because of telegraphs. They put telegraph lines and they could send messages to each other. Like, so you could tell the other general, oh, I just lost the battle over here, can you send me some support? And like the South is like, okay, get on a horse, ride for 2 days and talk to the other general, and then, so it's a lot slower. So that's another thing. So infrastructure can be important in history. It affects, between different countries or different groups, if they're competing for something, it can affect who wins a lot of times. Who has better infrastructure? Usually, better infrastructure, you have more money to build it. But also, like in the North and South, in that case, they had different kinds of economies. The North was more industrial, and the South they had money, but it was agriculture based on slaves. So they weren't building things like railroads. So they didn't have the ability to have the kind of infrastructure that the North had. All right, sentence over here. So a society with better infrastructure often has better education, and therefore better literacy. So trying to connect it somehow to reading. So are there questions about this word infrastructure? There's one thing I didn't talk about yet is the word family, which is right here. Who knows what part of speech that might be? Infrastructural. It's an adjective. If you see this, AL is an adjective suffix. That means it's an adjective. So infrastructural means related to infrastructure. So you could say, President Obama made infrastructural investments, or something. That's another way to say this. He put money into the infrastructure. Questions? Okay. Yes, sure.
Technology, it's infrastructure, or is a resource, or is a sponsor?
So, I mean, infrastructure is, as I said, it's like a society-wide system. So now, I mean, I think like, yeah, I mean, now you can talk about, because now that we have, the internet is an interconnected system all around the world between lots of computers. The internet itself is infrastructure because it's a system that goes across society. So that's an example of technology that is infrastructure. But maybe not always. I mean, because you could have something that you just use in your house. I'm trying to think, a kind of technology. Like I have a thermometer to check my daughter's temperature. That's not communicating with anything else. It's not part of a big system in society. It's technology. It probably has a computer chip in it. But I don't know if I would call it infrastructure because it's not a system across all of society. But like the internet, yes. It's a system across all of society. Now that's part of infrastructure. It didn't exist, I mean, 20, 30 years ago, if you talked about infrastructure, the internet, what's that? But now, yeah, it's part of the infrastructure of modern society, I would say. Does that make, yeah, so is something infrastructure or not? Think about, is it like a big system that makes something work? That's infrastructure. All right? Thanks a lot.